Okay, we are recording. You are and have been a friend of Tim Ballard, yes?
Correct.
You did an event with him, supported Operation Underground Railroad,
That's right.
and now,
Well, and now, I was actively when all of these things started to come out, from Vice News, I was actively defending him. I was getting, pressers from his people messaging me to send it to, people that follow my channels. And so as I was doing that, I got a message from somebody that I personally know that said there's more to this story. And so when I jumped on the phone with her and I listened to her, um, I knew that she was telling the truth.
how did you
And
know?
go ahead. What did
How
you
did
say?
you know?
Just all I can say is, when number one, but then, with my law enforcement background, I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people, and I know when a victim is speaking. And so subsequently, when I did a first video that basically just said, "Hey, Tim, you need to make this right," pretty much is what I said. Not condemning him to hell, just saying, "Hey, look, this is very, very disturbing." And then subsequently, I've now spoken with 6 of Tim Ballard's victims, and I not only believe them, but I believe that there's many, many more that are probably in the shadows that are out there.
Are these women at the point where they're willing to talk themselves?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I know that they're scared. They're afraid. These are women that they want they wanted to make sure that they want to let everybody know that child trafficking does happen. And just because this happened with him doesn't take away from the whole mission of trying to save children. And so I know that a few of them that I talked to, there's been days that they don't want to live anymore. And so you could hear it in their voices. And to me, I think it's very, very important that we as a community, especially, a conservative state that we are in Utah, that we are consistent on what it is that we actually believe, and we're consistent on who we quote unquote call out for certain behaviors. Because in my opinion, Brian, this is like next level stuff. We're all sinners, if we all make mistakes, but this has gone beyond. When you listen, I don't know if you've read the documents, the court documents of the lawsuits, but I mean, some of these women literally told him, stop doing this, stop, as he continued with this sexual predatory behavior. And he's not stopping talking. If you go to his Instagram channel, he's continuing to double down, double down, double down. And I just think people need to realize this is very real. This is no Kavanaugh moment. These are people that worked directly with him. These are people that took those sexual complaints to OUR months ago, like 6 months ago. So this didn't just pop out because he decided that he was going to run for Senate. I believe he knew this was coming. He knew that all of this information was coming. And the way that he wanted to play really everybody was that anybody that's coming after me is going after trying to save kids. And I think it's very manipulative, and it needs to stop.
If you were a police officer, would you recommend that criminal charges be filed against him?
Absolutely, without question.
And what would they be?
Well, if you go and read the documents, the lawsuit on the last 4 pages of the first lawsuit, um, in my opinion, this was force. This is felony type charges. I don't know what the girls are going to do. Tim Ballard has some very, very powerful friends in the state of Utah. He has a lot of people that don't want to look at the truth of this. He has a lot of followers that just, no matter what he says, goes. And I think that's a very dangerous place to be in.
When was the last time you spoke to Tim Ballard?
Months ago, he had called me on a couple things, uh, just asking me for pretty much contacts of mine. I'd seen him at a couple of events. This has been absolutely devastating to me because I wanted him to be the person that he said he was, right? I wanted him to be this, we need beacons, we need hope in the world. And to me, I just believe that I don't know where he went off path, but I think that he looked into this abyss um a little too long, that he became the very thing that he was hoping to stop.
Have you tried to contact him
Um,
recently?
I have not. I had talked to one of his team, I guess is in his camp a little while ago, trying to like at least try to get an interview, and that didn't happen. But then I just started getting messages from people in his camp telling me that I'm duped, I'm deceived, stop this, and I knew that wasn't going to go too well.
And in terms of the women who don't want to live anymore, you said you heard it in their voice. Did they also say that to you directly?
Yeah, there's days that they just don't want to exist.
And they said that. They
Yes.
told you that.
Oh, yes. And you can,
So
and so when you're talking to somebody, especially a victim of this type of abuse, this is replaying. This is like a PTSD type thing. And so I think if he would have just addressed this, months ago when these allegations came forward, and would have addressed it properly, all of this, we wouldn't even be talking today.
he'd still be in charge at OUR.
I don't know. I don't know how that. I don't know. With their. I'm not sure.
You don't know what would have happened. Okay. Was there a conspiracy to protect him, in your view?
Well, of course you're going to have both sides. You're going to have people that no matter what they're told, they're going to believe whatever is coming out of his mouth. I mean, look, in my opinion, you have somebody who, if you just look at the track record, especially with the whole financial, that's a whole nother topic. You have somebody that has been using people all the way up to this point and just has not been stopped. The people that he'll connect with, become best friends with, from, you know, people in law enforcement in this community, all the way up to people of church leaders, all the way up to the former president of the United States. I mean, this is somebody that is a very strategic. He's very, very, very manipulative, and in my opinion, we have a duty as a society to say enough is enough.
We've spoken a little bit about this already, but in terms of the reaction to these allegations against him, are you surprised by the kinds of comments that you're hearing from some people? And if so, why are you surprised?
Um, I I didn't want to get involved in this, but I felt when I spoke to these people that I had an absolute duty to, because once I heard these stories and once I knew with my personal investigation that I did, I knew there was going to be pushback, but I didn't understand the depth of the pushback from people that believe the same way I believe. I mean, I'm getting called pedophile on my own channels, and that's because I believe Tim has set the stage for anybody that's coming against him. That's exactly what he wants people to think, which is again very manipulative, dangerous position to be in. And so the comments have been really sad because I just don't think people can see through the cognitive dissonance at the truth. I recommend reading those documents. I recommend seeing all of the circumstantial evidence, a lot of circumstantial evidence on this case, multiple people, not just one person, not just two people from his organization, not just three, not just four, not just five. The last lawsuit that just dropped, it was his personal assistant. I mean, this is overwhelming. And I really encourage people that are on the fence on this to just read both lawsuits and do your own investigation. And if you're not willing to do that, then just at least keep your powder dry and wait. But there's some of us that have done our investigations. There's some of us that have looked into it and have faced the reality, faced the truth. And we are just trying to say that that there needs to be accountability for this, and we need to speak up as a community that know the truth so that we can all heal and become better after all of it.
Are there some people, in your view, who simply cannot believe that Tim Ballard could possibly do something wrong?
100%. I just got a message this morning. They're very upset with me. And it's like, this isn't about me. This isn't about Tim Ballard. This is about truth and lies. This is about light and darkness. And in my opinion, this is a huge test for all of us, especially as Christian conservatives. What are we willing to accept in our society in order to save a kid?
So is the feeling from your perspective that some people say, hey, he's one of us. We can't go after someone who's one of us, even if he's accused of doing all these.
Yes,
Things.
I've had messages like, even if these things happened, at least we saved kids. And to me, the ends do not justify the means. We cannot allow certain behavior. We cannot allow these victims here to try and save these victims here. That is not okay.
So how should this be handled by your old friend Tim Ballard now?
I think that he just needs to come to himself, and I think he just needs to own this. And I believe that God can fix all things, and that if he did this, it would just be so much better for everybody. Just own it, and people forgive, and then move on and reemerge as the leader that he wants to be. And 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 that's life. That's how we become better. But I think the further that it's just double down and double down and double down, it's going to force, and even it's going to force more pain on everybody.
So the defendants in these lawsuits are multiple. I mean, you have organizations that are defendants. Tim Ballard's a defendant. Members of the board of directors are defendants. And I guess the question then becomes, how wide does this go? Maybe these individuals were not doing anything wrong. That's possible. Or is it possible that these individuals were enabling Tim Ballard, looking the other way so that Tim Ballard could do what he is accused of doing? What do you think the culpability is of all those other defendants?
I really can't speak on it. I think that there are several people that knew what he was doing, but I think that there was a lot of people that didn't, because he was very, very strategic on how quiet he wanted each one of these women. He had them sign NDAs. He would threaten, I have 1,000 bricks versus your one, according to some of the women. And so I think that I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question.
So the people who did know, who else do you think knew?
I think a lot of his close friends. I think there's I've gotten messages from people saying, hey, I've known a lot about this Tim Ballard for a long time. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep speaking. And it's like, you guys, if you knew all these things, why didn't you say something earlier? And this is why we're so apathetic, because we don't think that our voices matter, but it does. And that's how it got so big, was because so many people stayed silent for so long.
So in terms of the money, you mentioned the money in the lawsuit. At least one of the suits speaks to how much money Operation Underground Railroad raised over a period of years, and it's millions, multiple millions of dollars each year. If there's an investigation into the funds, do you have a sense as to what that is going to show?
Well, it just depends on who's doing the investigation. And it depends on how much resources they have to do an investigation. And it depends on how much the public wants to see it. It depends on who's behind it. There's so many factors. And so I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen with all the finances and but if there's a lot of reading material out there, so I suggest anybody to just go out and start reading.
What about Sean Reyes? What do you think of his posture so far?
Well, I think that anybody that knows these things and anybody that has truth on these things, no matter where you're at in a position of power and authority, we need to be speaking the truth. So whatever that is, we need to be speaking truth in order to come to the light together.
And to that end, what do you plan to do going forward related to speaking the truth about this?
Just when people ask me, I'm going to give my opinion. And I believe that it's, again, I let me try to answer that maybe a different way. At this point, I feel it's my duty to at least get people to look into the case. Just look into it and just hold your comments until you personally do your investigation on it. And when you see that, then you will know what you can do. And if it's to just be quiet, then just be quiet. But if you see these things, the things that I see, then maybe you can get involved and start using your voice so that we can all come to truth together.
You have an axe to grind against Tim Ballard?
I'm very, very frustrated with how he's been acting now, especially on the last probably 8 or 9 posts on Instagram. It's not an axe. It's just, man, like the way that he's acting is very alarming to me. I mean, I was actively defending him and his movie and everything until I was presented with these truths. And so that's ultimately what we should all be looking at, is the truth. What is the truth? And the truth will set you free.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.